In this video, we're going over the best mobility exercises for lacrosse players. What's going on, guys? Kyle here from Relentless Lacrosse, and today we're going to go over the best mobility exercises that lacrosse players can use to bulletproof their body, create a healthy mobile body, and then also improve their performance. So a lot of lacrosse players, they know they have to get faster, they got to get stronger, and they're focusing on that thing, and that's awesome. But mobility is a huge performance enhancer. Not only is it going to let you find those proper mechanics, both on and off the field, but it's also going to let you stay healthy all season. All right, so this is my favorite ankle mobility for lacrosse players. I'm just going to be finding an active position. So I'm trying to decrease my angle here as much as possible. I'm going to add a little bit of pressure with my foot or my hand here, press, and then let go. So this one seems super basic, but there's a couple of points where we want to get super intentional. First of all, as I'm coming up, I don't want my foot to come off. I want to make sure that I'm super grounded, and then I'm pushing as aggressively as possible, holding for like that 1, 2, 3, and then letting go. So this is an exercise that you have to be intentional in actually driving that range, kind of creating as much release as possible, and then letting go. I would say you want to hit this anywhere between 8 and 10 reps, really getting aggressive for that 3 seconds, and then letting go. All right, so we're gonna move up the chain here and get into our calves and hamstrings here specifically. I'm gonna use a band, and this is something I feel should be in every single lacrosse bag because they're so valuable for this kind of work, and then also kind of activation work pregame. So I'm gonna get set up with a cross here, making sure that my leg is now fully straight, and then I've got it kind of just in my forefoot, and then I'm gonna go back. So you've likely seen something like this before where it's just a nice passive stretch, but this is what we call our active passive stretch. It's kind of taking this version that's good to great here. So I have a fully straight leg as tall as I can here. If I can only get straight for this far, that's fine, but I'm gonna pull back so I feel that stretch, so I can already feel it in my hamstring. And now we're gonna take it to the next level by turning this leg active. So I have a passive on this side and then an active on this side. And so my goal here is to take my heel past my toe every single rep, trying to get it really past there, feel that active stretch on that other side, and then let go. So I have a passive stretch and active stretch, and then I'm going over that other side as well and having that active and passive stretch. So this is a huge one for lacrosse players because if you're doing too much sprint work, you're going to get tight in those hamstrings, and if you throw out one of those, you're out for a while. So make sure you're looking after your hamstrings with this stretch specifically. All right, so we're gonna move up the chain a little bit further and get into our, not only our hamstrings here, but also our hip flexors. So a lot of lacrosse players are getting super tight through that hip region, and it's often because they're just sitting all day, right? So we were sitting all day, we're in that flex hip position all day, and then we get out in the field and do our sprint work, and we're just adding more stress to there. So this is my favorite exercise to not only get into the hamstring, but also the hip flexor here. I'm gonna start by having one arm go up. I have one arm that's going behind me and trying to reach almost to that opposite glute. So I'm flexing down and I'm creating as much reach as I can. So I feel it's not only in my hip flexor, but kind of even higher here as well. So I'm creating an entire release in that side. I'm gonna pause for a second, and then I'm gonna go into a hamstring stretch. So trying to bring my chest as far down as possible. So I'm not just kind of rounding my back, I'm really trying to stay as tall as possible. Just have a flex here. Again, we're keeping this active, and then I'm going back the other way again. So this is something that's going to create a huge release in kind of both of those regions, which is super nice to do them at the same time and just create that big, strong stretch on either side. I'd say hitting this for 10 reps, maybe even 8, is gonna create a massive release through your lower body. All right, so this next stretch is the perfect one to get not only hip flexors, but also the quads, which are often tight. If you got tight quads, you likely have tight hip flexors, and vice versa. So I'm still gonna get into my lunge, but in this case, I'm actually gonna have come forward a little bit and then be grabbing my foot. So just on the outside, and now I'm just gonna hang out here. So I'm gonna find a place that gets tight. So I could rock around here a little bit, kind of just finding a tight area. Maybe I want to bring my foot in a little bit to create a little bit more torque on that hip, but I'm just going to find a tight region and then just hang out. If this isn't much of a stretch, obviously you can pull your foot back a little bit further, and I now find this a huge quad stretch. So you'll likely feel the pull wherever you're tightest, which is what we want. So hang out there. You have to find probably a couple of tight spots, hang out for around 10 seconds. Again, it's not fully passive where we're just gonna hang out in one spot. So we wanna find a region, kind of flex into it, try and reclaim a little bit more range. But this is one that's gonna be huge for both your hip flexors and quads. All right, so we're gonna move up the chain here a little bit more and get into our low back. And so this is a problem area for not only lacrosse players, but a lot of athletes. It's just one of those regions that seems to get either super tight and restricted or just really achy. So our favorite exercise by far is the scorpion exercise, and this is a mobility exercise that can really loosen you up in really just 1 or 2 sets. So I am gonna start out completely flat, and then as soon as I'm out, I have my hands out, And then I'm taking my foot to my opposite hand. So trying to create as much range here with my low back specifically. So I'm trying to bring my hips around on purpose. And we really want to make sure we're doing this intentionally. So I'm trying to keep as much chest on the ground as possible and just trying to create that extra range every single time, taking a pause and then letting go. Huge for the low back, and I promise you doing this even just once post-workout, you'll immediately find some results. All right, so we're gonna move into the money makers now. We're gonna be focusing on our upper back and shoulders. And these are awesome for lacrosse players because not only is this a region that gets super tight, but it's also performance enhancing, right? We wanna make sure that we're creating that extra mobility that's gonna let us get a little bit more torque into those shots. So my first one here is just called a book opener. I'm gonna be taking my hand to my head and then I'm trying to get my elbow basically as close to my knee as possible and then coming up and opening up as much as possible. So we don't wanna hack this by kind of creating a full body rotation here in our low back or hips or anything like that. I want to make sure I'm locked in and really trying to create that intentional release, like I'm squeezing my abs here and that intentional release through my upper back. So this is one of those exercises that's going to be huge because it's really going to create that upper back rotation. And so we need to be able to lock everything down here and purposely fight that rotation and try and reclaim some range. All right, so we're going to be focusing on T-spine mobility here again in that rotation element. I'm in a half kneel right now. I'm getting super tall and it's very similar to our last exercise where I'm getting fully braced. So my abs are tight here. I'm not creating or allowing any rotation in my ribs or in my hips. And I'm going to be focusing on getting as much rotation here as possible, fighting it for a second and then letting go. So if you're tight through that upper back region, you're gonna actually feel as if it's almost like it has a bit of a shake. You might be even having a little bit of a cramp, and that's almost what we want. We want to be fighting against that region, finding that mobility and then let go from it. All right, so every single rep you're trying to create that. How much mobility can you get? Not with your neck, not with your full body, but truly just like how far can I get my chest over to the other area? Hold, 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 flex against it, and then let go. 8 reps, and I'm already starting to feel amazing here. 8 reps for you, and I know you're gonna find that extra mobility. All right, our last exercise here is all about shoulder mobility. This is one of my favorites because we're getting active mobility here. So we're not just holding some sort of stretch here, getting passive. We're really trying to create some active range through our shoulders. So I'm in all fours here, and then I'm gonna be reaching out my hand as far as I can. I'm gonna flip it, and then I'm gonna lift as high as I possibly can and flex against it. So I really wanna make sure here that I have my hand open and I'm keeping it open as if I'm kind of holding like a bowl of soup or something like that. And then once I'm raising it up, I'm not letting it kind of compensate or anything like that. I'm flexing against it and then I'm letting go. You could take this to a whole new level where we're actually going to create a full rotation. I'm lifting up and I'm trying to get it around as much as possible, but we find a lot of lacrosse players don't have that range. So I would start, hey, we're going to do 8 reps here, really focusing on trying to get that nice high quality lift, have that flex against, try and reclaim some range, let go, relax the body. But then after our 8 reps, if you're still feeling, hey, my shoulders are a little junky right now, or hey, that wasn't much of a stretch, try and get into that full rotation as much as possible and really try and reclaim some range and keeping your arms straight and get that nice big circle. This is one that is so valuable for lacrosse players, and I know that if you're doing it every single day, you're gonna create those healthy mobile shoulders. All right guys, so if you're a lacrosse player that's serious about taking your game to the next level and really enhancing your performance, then mobility needs to be a focus. It can't all just be shooting, it can't all just be wall ball, and it can't just be stuff in the gym. Creating that healthy mobile body is not only gonna let you stay injury-free all season, but it's also gonna let you take your performance to the next level. This is all stuff that actually translates to the field. So if you are a lacrosse player looking to take your game to that next level, head over to relentlesslacrosse.com. We've got a ton of different articles, training videos, and training programs that are built for lacrosse players. Get out there and get relentless.